Hello, and thank you for watching. I'm Jennifer Bowman with Olympia Piano, and this video is going to help you play the trills in Chopin's Nocturne number 20. Nocturne in C sharp minor, this one. Okay. I'm going to be doing 3 videos on this Nocturne. So this is video number 1, just on the trills and grace notes. Video 2 is going to be on tricky rhythms, and then video 3 is going to go over how to navigate the scales at the end of this piece. Before the video starts, I just want you to know there are a lot of versions of this piece. So the version I'm taking my information from is Henle edition, and it's the first version of this piece that's in that book. But there's lots of versions, so just use your best judgment as you try to match up your music with what I'm presenting here in this video. Okay, so for those of you who already know what a trill is and have a basic idea of how to play it, go ahead and look in the video description and skip ahead to where I actually start with measure 2. But for those of you who maybe are new to piano, beginners or intermediate, and want a little bit of more explanation, I'm going to do that right now. First item is what exactly is a trill? So when you look on your music and you see that little TR, what does that even mean? So in this context, this is a romantic period piece. It means you're going to take the written note. So I'm just going to give measure 2 as an example. So our written note is F sharp, and then you're going to play the next note higher, and you're going to go back and forth between them. That is what a trill is. And so you might be wondering, well, why am I choosing this note? And here's another note right next to it. What we want to do when we're doing a trill is to take a look at what our key signature is. The key signature are the sharps or flats at the beginning of the piece. And so this has 4 sharps, and it is in the key of C sharp minor. So here's our C sharp minor scale. So the next note in that scale is the note I'm going to trill to. And if I go to another trill, I have another trill coming up on D sharp. So again, if I do my D sharp, the next note is only a half step. This was a whole step. So use your scale to help you figure out what notes to play. Okay? Now here's the tips on how to physically play the trill. All right? So for those of you who have seen some of my videos, you might have noticed I talk a lot about the finger pad. This is like what your fingerprint would be, right? Playing the piano using different parts of this finger pad gives you different sounds and techniques. So for the trill, I'll just jump right to the trill and show you. We want to play on the tips, the top half of the finger pad. And the way you can find this point is by, let's place the 2 notes of the trill, and we can go ahead and place them down flat. And then just I want you to stand up on your fingers and find where you're gripping the keys but not caving and falling down like that. On the keys, stand up, grip. That is the point at which you want to play your trill. So you can see the little indentations on my finger. It's the top portion, okay? So tip number 2 is you want to keep your fingers, I tell my students, keep your fingers glued to the keys. Don't be lifting up like this. Jiggle back and forth. You see, I'm not lifting off. I'm just kind of letting my wrist do more of the work. And then tip number 3 is normally we might have a more balanced hand. Might stand up, have a really nice hand position. See, my wrist is here, my fingertips are here, my bridge is here. This gives access to a lot of body, my arm, my torso. However, for a trill, we want to play fast. So I'm going to cut off all this extra weight, and I'm going to lift my wrist up slightly. So all I have to worry about is energy for the jiggling back and forth. So we want to play on the tips, we want to stay close, and we want the wrist to be up. So there's a couple types of trills you can do. One type of trill is called a measured trill, and what that means is the right hand is going to have a set amount of notes that it plays whenever the left hand plays a note. So we could do a 2-note measured trill. We could do a 3-note measured trill. We could do 4 notes in the right hand, 1 note in the left hand, and so forth. Or we could do what's called a non-measured. Non-measured trills are not a set amount of notes in the right hand for the left hand. and non-measured trills could maybe start slow and then get fast. So I usually suggest if you were a beginner or an intermediate pianist, pick a measured trill, and then once you get good at that, then move towards non-measured. If you're a more advanced pianist, you might also explore measured trills, but it's okay to try non-measured if you have that trill technique down. So now let's get started. And with each trill, we've got to do two things. We've got to figure out which notes we're playing and which fingers we're using. Right when we get started in measure 2, you see right away that there are 2 grace notes after the trill. So the way I'm going to handle that in this video is I'm going to take those grace notes and I'm going to treat them like 2 16th notes, playing the first grace note with the left hand, and that will make it clean and easy to understand. As you get better at this, you can play around with the timing of those grace notes. But for all versions of measured, it's going to go with the left hand. So let's get started. So we'll have 2 notes. We've got to decide which fingers to use. I think when I put my hands down, these are the fingers we're going to use, but it's not always so easy. The trill is F sharp going to G sharp. So these are our 2 strongest fingers. We don't want to use 3 and 4. 4 is the weakest, or 4 and 5. And then our grace notes, or sometimes I call them the tail, are E and F sharp. So it works really well to trill here, tail, next note. So trill is going to be on fingers 2 and 3. Tail is going to start with the thumb. So now let's see what happens if we just start with a 2-note measured trill, 2 notes in the right hand, 1 in the left hand. Let's see what it sounds like. Here's our trill. Here's our tail. Now, did you hear that there's a little gap right here? We do not want gaps in the scale when we're having trills. We want the note before the tail to be the note that's next to it in this scale, okay? So what we're going to have to do is alter the 3rd subdivision of the measured trill. So we could do it 2 different ways. We could either do 2 notes, 2 notes, 1 note, tail. So I'm going to play that quickly so you hear how that works. So that works fine. Or option 2 would be to play the 3rd one a little more quickly. So we want to end on F sharp before that tail on the 4th left-hand note. So we're going to do 2 notes, 2 notes, 3 notes. Listen to that one more time. It sounds beautiful like that. So speeding up the 3rd one in order to end on the right notes. All right, now in measure 2, we could also do a 3-note subdivision in the right hand, 3 notes in the right hand for 1 note in the left hand. How does that work? Let's try it out. 3, 3, 3, tail. That works perfect because our last note of that 3rd one was F sharp, which is what we want before we come to here. Here's how it sounds quickly. I love it. Okay, now 4-note subdivision in the right hand. Tail is going to be 2 notes, so it's going to feel a little slower at the end. Let's give it a try. Notes, 4 notes. Same problem, that gap there. So we can combat that 2 ways. We could either slow down the 3rd one, so it would go from a 3 to a 2. Or we could go more quickly and have a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, tail. So let's try the slower one first. So we have 4, 4, 3, 2. Here it is quickly. That works fine. Or let's do a 5-note on the 3rd one. So we have 4, 4, 5, 2. Here's how that sounds quickly. Great. So both of those work really well. Now let's do the non-measured trill, and I'll just do it a couple different ways. So the first way, I'll start a little bit more slowly and I'll play the grace note together just like I have been doing. Okay, the second way, I'll maybe play it a little bit more quickly and play the grace note later. So measure 9, this trill has a couple of unique elements to it. First being that the grace note, C sharp, D sharp, and then the trill is going to be D sharp and E. Again, we're getting it from our C sharp minor scale, all right? However, in general, people don't play the trill. Usually, people will put an E in between that last grace note and when the trill starts. It'll either sound like the trill is starting on the E, or it will sound like the grace note has an extra note to it, making it sound like a triplet, and then the trill starts on the D sharp. So I'm going to show you all different combinations with both of those fields, with a 2-note grace note and with a 3-note grace note. And the other thing I want to mention is there's a couple fingering possibilities for this trill. If you are more of a beginning or intermediate player, I'm going to suggest using 1, 2, 3, 2. Okay? If you're slightly more advanced, you can try 2, 3, 1, and then trill. I always did the 1, 2, 3, 2, but then I saw some people doing the 2, 3, 1, 3 on YouTube and thought I'd try that. So I'll show you the 2, 3, 1, 3 in the non-measured portion. One other thing I want to mention before I get into all the trills is that D sharp in the right hand on beat 4 is going to come with the left hand B sharp. However, because all of these are subject to interpretation, I'm going to show you different ways. Sometimes people stop the trill a little bit before beat 4 and let it kind of end early, and some people like to stop exactly on beat 4. So I'm going to show you all of those ways so you can see what you like and what feels good to you and do it that way. So let's start with 2-note subdivisions in the right hand, and we're going to start with the 2-note grace note. So just like we did before in measure 2, we're putting the grace note together as if it is 2 16th notes. So that's going to go, and that will start together exactly with the left hand. So the first thing you're going to play is the grace note, and then you start the trill. Okay, so let's do 2-note subdivision. Here's your grace note, 2 notes, 2, 2, 2. That's what I was talking about. It stops a little bit early. Listen to it fast and see what you think. I think that sounds pretty nice. However, if you do want that D sharp to end exactly with the left hand on beat 4, if you want to have those notes play together, then we've got to do like we did before and speed up the last trill in the right hand. So we have 2 notes, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, together, together, together. We do that more quickly. It works great. Let's put that E together with the grace note and then start the trill on D sharp. So instead of having 2 notes at the beginning with the left hand, we're going to have 3. So 3 notes, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, together, together. So that one, if you put the 3, then it ends up together on that last beat 4. All right, let's move to 3-note subdivisions. We're going to start with the 2-note grace note and then go to 3. So we have 2 notes, 3, 3, 3. Okay, so that one works out really well to have that together. Here's how that sounds quickly. Now, what if we add an E to that first group of grace notes? So playing 3 notes and then 3-note trill, 3-note measured trill. Let's try that and see what happens. 3, 3, 3. Did you hear how it ended a little bit early, but not as apparent as when we were doing 2? So if we want it to end together, we can do two things. We can either slow down the one before, or we could do a 4. So we could, so let's try the 2 and then the 4. So we have the 3-note grace note, 3 notes, 3-note trill, 3, 3, 3, 2. Now I'll do that more quickly. Or we can do 4. It's kind of nice. It gives a little more movement at the end. So all 3 of those work really nicely for the 3-note subdivision. Now let's move to the 4. The 4, as you probably have guessed, has some of the same issues as the 2 in terms of making it all fit together. So let's start first and see what happens if we have the 2-note grace note and then right into 4-note measured trill. 2-note grace note, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. Now this works pretty well because this is so quick. We barely hear that it ends early. However, if you do want that to hit together, we can either do a 3-note subdivision or a 5-note. So let's do the 3-note first so you can hear that. So we have 2, 4, 4, 4, 4, 3 together. And here's how that sounds quickly. Very heartfelt, moving to the 3. Now let's try the 5. 2, 4, 4, 4, 4, 5. Okay, more quickly. So a little bit of a different emotion when you go quickly at the end than when you go down to the 3. So try them both out, see what you like, see which emotion you're trying to convey when you play this piece and share this piece with others. So now let's try with the 3-note pickup and then the 4-note and see how that one works. So we're going to add the E to the grace note. 3 notes with the first left hand. 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. That works great. Great. Okay, so now measure 9 with the non-measured trill. I'm going to use the alt fingering, 2, 3, 1, 3. Okay, and the first time I will do 2-note grace note, and then the second time I will do 3-note. I'll add the E at the beginning. So here we go. Or 3 notes. So see how that fingering works for you. All right, moving to measure 11, basically the same as measure 2 in terms of the fingering. But if you look at the end of the measure, in my score, there's a 3-note grace note at the end instead of, and in some scores, you'll have a 4-note grace note there. So we're going to use the same fingering as we did before on the trill, 2 and 3, and the tail starts with E, so it will also be the same. So let's go through all the options, measured and unmeasured, for this trill, and I'll show you both versions of that ending grace note tail. Here's 2 notes first. We got 2, 2. Remember, we moved faster here, so we ended up on the F sharp. Quickly, that would sound like this. Or let's put 4 notes at the end. 2, 2, 3, 4. Quickly. That sounds very pretty. Okay, so now we have 3-note measured trills. Let's see how that one works with the 3-note grace note at the end. 3, 3, 3, 3. Works out basically perfectly. Or we add the 4-note tail at the end. 3, 3, 3, 4. More quickly. That works great too. Okay, 4 notes. We're going to have the same issue. We want to end on an F sharp. So with the 4-note trill, we could either go more slowly to end up on the F sharp, or we could go more quickly. So we could go 4, 4, 3, 3. So that would sound like this. Or 4, 4, 5, 3, sounding like this. Here that is quickly. Okay, now those same exact options, but with the 4 at the end. So we have 4, 4, slower, 3, 4. Here that is in context. Or 4, 4, 5, 4. Here's how that one's going to sound. 4, 4, 5, 4. And here that is quickly. So all of those work. Find out what feels good and works for you and what you like the sound of, and do it that way. Now I'll also do the unmeasured. 3 unmeasured first. Or 4 with the tail at the end. All right, moving forward. Now we've got a different type of trill. This is a really short trill. The whole mood has changed. So even if you are in a situation where you have been doing only unmeasured trills for the beginning, you might consider doing a measured trill here just to mix it up a little bit, have it be more con forza like written. So let me show you the options for this one. In terms of fingering, I think there's basically 2 options. And by the way, these are not the only options. There's more options to do, but these are probably the most commonly done ones. So we could either use 1-3, which is what I like. I really like having my thumb in there. 1-3 is an option. So if you use 1-3, 1-3 for the trill, and those 30-second notes afterwards are either going to be 2, 1, 2, 3, 5, or 2, 1, 3, 4, 5, or 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. You have to figure it out so you know what works best for your hand. For my hand, I like 2, 3, 5. That's what I like. If you use 2-3 for the trill, then you can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's go through the options for that. For all of the measured, I'm going to use 2-3, and for the unmeasured, I'll use 1-3. All right. So 2-note trills, starting on 2 notes in the right hand, 1 note in the left hand. Here we go. 2 notes, stop. Here's how that sounds quickly. It works out perfectly. Okay, 3-note measured trills, 3 right hand notes, 3, 3, together, 4 notes. Now, 4-note measured trill, here we go. 4, 4, together, 4. And for the unmeasures, I'm going to show you a couple different ways people do it. Some people will stop on the note, on the 3rd left-hand note, and kind of accent that as well. And sometimes people will just keep trilling, going right into those 30-second notes like this. Both are widely done and widely acceptable. So try it and see which interpretation you like the best and play it that way. So our next little tips are just on grace notes. This is trills and grace notes after all. The mood kind of changes. My main suggestion for these grace notes coming up is that the speed of them reflects the mood you're trying to go for. because this can be interpreted many ways. In terms of the fingering, we are in measure 22, and the grace notes are these 6. So fingering is going to be 5/4 on the top and 1/1 on the bottom. In terms of physical, how you're going to play it, it's like touch down. You're not going to go down, down. It's like you're playing it on the way down to this one. The grace note will go before the left hand, so it'll be alone, together, okay? The speed in which you play the grace note is going to help create the mood. So you could have it be a little slower. Or if you play it a little bit more quickly, it changes the mood. The grace note in measure 26, you have 2 fingering options, just depending on the size of your hand, what feels good. They both feel good to me because my hands are a little bit bigger. So either 5/2/4/1 or 5/1/4/1. So see what works best with your hand. Again, same thing here with the speed. This is going to come by itself, then the main note comes with the left hand. So the grace note is before the left hand, okay? So I'm going to go slowly first. Or I'm going to keep the same overall speed but play the grace note more quickly. So again, what mood are you trying to evoke? The speed is going to help you evoke that mood. Okay, just a few more trills to go. Trill in measure 27, we've got a forte. The trill is very short. It's just for 2 left hand notes. And we are starting on C sharp. We're still in the key of C sharp. So we're going to trill to the D sharp. Fingering is going to be 2/3. We've got to come down to that B sharp. So that's going to be our fingering for this. Let's go through all of the options. Because we're coming to the B sharp, our last note needs to be a C sharp. So if we have, that's not going to work. So we have to put that faster one the second time. So we'll have 2, 3 together. That works great, actually. It gives it a lot of impetus in this forte section. Now let's see what happens if we do a 3-note measured trill. That doesn't work either, so we're gonna have to do it backwards for the 3 notes. We have, that works. Or you could do faster on the second one. You could do 3, 4. Let's try that faster. That works great. Both of those work. And what if we do a 4-note measured trill? Let's see what happens. Again, we have that gap there, so we're either going to have to go down to a 3. So we have 4-note, 3. Or we're going to have to do a 4-note to a 5. I like that. We do an unmeasured and really bust into it. Now basically in measure 44, we have the trill that I already went through. And measure 11 is the same, but this one is only with the 4-note. So I'm not going to do that all again. Just refer back to measure 11, which will be in the timestamp. So let's move ahead. Measure 49. By the way, in some versions, there is no trill in 49, but for those who have a trill in 49, here, let's go through it. We've got to do fingering, so we've got the trill, E, next note on the scale is F sharp, and then we've got some grace notes here starting on D sharp. So we know our trill has to end on the E. The trill itself, fingering is probably best 1 and 3, and then at the end, for the tail, you're going to cross with 2. And the tail could either be 2, 1, 3, 1, or 2, 1, 5, 2, 2, 1, 5, 1. There's lots of ways to play that ending, so figure out what works for your hand. The main point being that it's going to be 2, 1 for that tail. All right, so let's go through the 2-note measured trills. We're going to treat those 2 grace notes at the end, just as we did before, and put them with that last left hand G sharp. So that will go together like 2 16th notes. Okay, 2-note measured trill. Okay, that doesn't work. So we have to have the extra note. So the note before the grace notes at the end is an E. So 2, 2, 3 grace notes. Now quickly it sounds like this. That works great. 3-note measured trill. That should work out. Let's see. 3, 3, 3 grace notes. Yep, it works out. Okay, 4-note trills, we're going to have the same issues as we've always had. So we know that that second to the last one is either going to have to be slower or more quickly. So let's do slower first. We'll have 4, 4, 3 grace note. Works great. Or we're going to have to go more quickly. So we have 4, 4, 5, 2. That works great also. And then we're to a measure that I'll discuss in the next video, the rhythm. And so now let's do unmeasured versions. You'll hear all sorts of placements of those grace notes in the unmeasured. Sometimes you'll hear it after the left hand, sometimes it will be with. So I'll do it with first. Or sometimes people will play it after the left hand's played, so it would sound like this. All right. So measure 54 is very similar to measure 9. The only difference is that C sharp at the end. And so I'm going to show you different ways you can do it. We can either play it together with the left hand, or we can play it left and then after. So let's go through those. So first time I'm going to play it with, we'll do a 2-note measured trill. Again, those first 2 notes, let's do the 2-note grace note, not with the extra E first. So we'll have grace note, trill, 2, trill, 2, trill, 2, trill, 2. Together. Let me do that quickly. Now, sometimes people want that C sharp, that grace note, to kind of go with the next note. So we're just going to change the rhythm a little bit. Here's how it sounds. So 2-note grace note, 2-note trill, 2-note trill, 2, 2, 2, 2, left, right, together. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, now you might remember from before that often that grace note actually sounded like it had an E in it. It was actually a 3-note grace note. So let's try those versions as well. So 2-note measured trill with 3 notes at the beginning. So we have 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, together, together. Ooh, that works well. Now let's switch that rhythm up at the end. So we have together, left, right, together. Okay, so we have 3-note grace note, trill, 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 together, left, right, together. Nice. Okay, let's go through all those versions with the 3-note subdivision. We'll start with the 2-note grace note. 3, 3. That works nice. We can just do that same thing, just do together, left, right, together at the end of that. So we have 2-note, 3, 3, 3, 3, together, left, right. Here it is quickly. Now, if we have the 3-note grace note pickup, Let's see how that one works. 3-note grace note, trill, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. That actually works out really well for many reasons. Okay, let's try that quickly. All right. So option 1, I'm just going to play the C sharp with the left hand. Okay, so 2-note grace note, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, together. Okay. Now, after all that fast, maybe you don't want the C sharp to kind of stop there. So you could just hold that like we've done with the other one. So that would sound like this. Grace, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, hold. Here that is quickly. You could also speed up the second to the last one and do a 5. So it would be a D sharp with the last left hand and then have the C sharp by itself. So that would sound like this. 4, 4, 4, 4, 5, together. Quickly, that sounds like this. They all sound so good, it's going to be hard to choose. Okay, now we just have the other option with the 3-note grace note at the beginning. 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, together. That works well. I think the only other option would be just to hold that at the end instead of have it be even. So that would sound like this. 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, hold. Quickly, that sounds like this. Or we can do the unmeasured trills. So those are our final option. Let's use 2, 3, 1, 3 for that. I'll do it with the 2-note grace note and the 3-note grace note at the beginning. 2-note first. Or triplet at the beginning. And some of you may notice as I am trying to do that little crescendo, decrescendo, I'm lowering my hand. That gives more arm weight to that. So that's a little advanced tip. So we start up high, get lower, get higher, and that helps with that crescendo. All right, I know that was a long video. There was a lot of details in that video, but I appreciate you watching and I hope that it helped you. If you found this video helped you, please subscribe or send me a donation on PayPal. It's all in the description. A couple more companion videos for this specific piece. This will be the longest one. Thank you to all of you who are still here at the end of this video. And I always love to hear from you. If you would like to write to me in the comments, please let me know where you're from. I love getting messages from all over the world. And as always, thank you for watching.